really good lighting angle there, Brad.
Welcome to Autofaze. On this video, we're installing a boost leash on the Autofaze WS6. Brad sent me a message the other day and said, hey man, how is it coming? And I said, dude, I am behind. So Brad said, well, hey man, I got a small opening. He's like, bring the car over. He's like, it's been what, a few years since we've been here?
Yes, it's crazy how time flies because it really does not feel like a few years.
It's crazy, right? And so today we're gonna do a boost leash and an AFR gauge. So that way we can hit up the dyno on Monday. And then a few days after that, hit up the track.
Yep. I mean, one of the benefits to having a turbo car is the ability to be able to change your boost on the fly and have a boost controller that you can ramp it in. You know, so there's so many benefits to a turbo car. Well, that's one of them, is being able to control the boost. So the Boost Leash is a great product. I used to have it back on my car way when I was stock ECM. I didn't have Holly, and so it's a really cool product. It does a lot. You get a little plot and everything, so it works out really well.
And so really for the stock ECU guys, the Boost Leash is really the best way to manage. Until, if I remember right, didn't the Boost Leash come out before like Holly started becoming like a big thing?
It's been around for a while, and I know several people that are just like the Boost Leash so much that they literally run it even though they have Holly. So they just have done
so the cool thing also with the Boost Leash, it'll also show your active PSI and also how much basically boost you're making at the gate.
Right.
So it helps you manage it, and of course then the settings are crazy. I think you have up to 5 stages on it, which is wild. So you can launch it gate within, you can make it ramp up to 1 second, then go to stage 2, etc. You can, I think even on some of the Boost Leash options, you can program a scramble button. So I mean, obviously this car's not going to get that crazy, but if you're there and you're going to do it and you're on the stock ECU, you might as well just do it instead of, I mean, there's plenty of options out there on the market if you want to do like we were talking about the other day, you could do the AEM True Boost or the E-Boost, of course, but you don't get as much, like if you want to run like a 7.0 index or a 6.5 index in this car since it doesn't have a cage, you really can't fine tune well with that setup. So that's why Brad was like, dude, just buy a Boost Leash, and we've had it for a couple of years and we just never got around to it. So, but today is the day.
Yep, we're gonna do it. So yeah, stay tuned.
Awesome, let's do it.
Here's everything that you get in the box. This one is the Pulse combo. Yes, this is the Boost Leash / Pulse. So if you have a trans brake, which we don't, but if you have a trans brake, this leash will also, you'll be able to set it up with that. And of course, we got the trusty AEM AFR gauge that we're going to throw in the car as well. Of course, CO2 bottle. And here is a really rad 35th anniversary edition that Brad is doing, a head cams intake and a headers, full exhaust. This thing's absolutely beautiful. We got a really good backdrop today.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to go read this 10 times if that's what it takes. Did you get that part?
Yeah, I think
10 times.
Read it 10 times. Yeah. So basically, if you have any questions, read that, and you call them, you're going to sound like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So basically on here, red wire connects to power, simple. Good ground, simple. This one connects to a trans brake button. It can also be connected to a brake pedal switch on a car without a trans brake.
That's us.
That would be you. Gray wire connects to a trans brake pulse, which we don't have that, and the wire connects to the trans brake solenoid, which we don't have that. So it looks like we only have to hook up 3 wires, so it shouldn't be fairly simple. But we also have some other things we're going to be wiring in, like this gauge, so we'll kind of use some of these wires and get going on this.
I want to ask, why doesn't the WS6 behind me have a trans brake? Well, if you run an 80E, if you try and do a built 80E, anything past like 900 horsepower gets extremely expensive. Most guys just go to a TH400, so no trans brake, way too expensive. We wanted overdrive, so we're going foot brake, 2-step action. That's what we're running.
You're gonna need 1/4-inch nylon push-to-connect fittings for this. It was not on the table earlier. Check out this little thing out. This is a gauge pod that'll go exactly where the traction control button is. We don't have that anymore, obviously, so this is gonna be a neat little spot to hide this gauge out of the way that you can still, kind of keep it in a good eye on the AFR. So our AFR is going to go here, where, like I said earlier. So we're trying to figure out where exactly to put it, where it's going to look clean. And because at the end of the day, if someone glances in this, we want it to appear as stock as possible. I know some guys throw it in the glove box, but that's not really convenient if you want to look at it on the fly or see what power or what boost PSI it's making. So this is kind of going to be the hardest thing in the whole process, I feel like.
Yeah, doing it tastefully and putting it where you want it. So.
What if we made... Well, throw your feet like you would be racing. What if we made like some... Well, even that wouldn't be in your eye level.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean...
thinking, what if we made like some sort of bracket that would come off here?
Yeah, you could make something like that, but then again, it's like, you know... So typically what I mean, this is, it's just such a small screen, you're not going to...
Yeah, it's a very small screen.
You're not going to really be able to like sit there and focus in on it anyways.
Right.
So it's pretty much the only thing...
And the cool thing about the leash is it'll data log, so you can
Right.
always revert back and see
Right.
how much, you know,
Right.
what the command PSI was with the CO2 versus what it actually made.
Right. Yeah, but back in the day, I just had mine down here like that.
Yeah.
And then it was simple, and you could just control it like that, and it just kind of fit there perfectly.
Which that would have worked good if we wouldn't have... Because my whole thing was a lot of guys will throw gauges here, and I don't like the look of that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys will throw them on the pillar over there.
Yeah.
I don't know. We should have thought about this way before.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we decided. I really wanted to put the AFR in the traction control area, but it's just not going to look clean with the leash setup. So I think I'm going to go with we're basically just going to sand off this edge, mount the leash on that with some 3M tape. That way if we ever want to take it out of the car, it's super removable. And as far as the AFR gate is concerned, I will order one to throw it on the driver's side left vent, since obviously we just have heat and we're not driving this when it's cold. That'll still keep it cleanish. But I think that's the best route to take.
Yeah. Really nice. So this is a vent, and this is going to say air in. So basically CO2 from your bottle is going to go into here, and then these are going to go to the T, and then this will go to your wastegate. And then whenever you let off, it'll release, and it'll vent the CO2 out of this.
Taking out the interior so we can run the airline for the CO2 bottle. Brad, what are you thinking for bottle placement? What I've seen online, a lot of guys mount them behind the seat. Obviously, we don't have any sort of roll cage.
Yeah, typically I mount it to a roll cage bar. We're actually using like a CO2 bottle from like a liquor store.
Yeah.
Because they're easy accessible, and
You can swap them out.
yeah, they're like $20 to swap them out, and I don't race as much as I wish I could, but mine will last me forever. So and the only time is if you have like a slight leak or something like that and you leave the bottle on, then you might have one go out, but for the most part you'll have it for a really, really long time.
The other option would be to mount it back here in the trunk, but then it's not easily accessible if you want to embarrass a 600cc sport bikes. Plus, we still have this cool 12-disc CD changer. I mean, we still listen to CDs, right, in 2023, so that's definitely not an option. Of course, if you've seen all the videos on this car, you know that the battery is under here on the right. And you still need the trunk for groceries. Or T-tops, right?
Travis locks them.
So really...
So they don't get stolen
Well,
when the car's locked.
I locked them because I forgot to lock them one day and we lost them. Hey Brad, what you doing?
Well, I made this little bracket, and basically it's going to have both your solenoids or Mac valves on here, and air is going to go into here, and then it's going to control it, and then it's going to go out there, and this is where the vent's going to be. So we're going to mount this in the car, and then we will hopefully get to wiring.
Where are we going to mount it at?
What we're going to do is I found a little spot on the side of the passenger kick panel, so it's kind of a flat area, so I can put a screw into it and mount it solid there. Plus, we're going to have the CO2 line running up there, so it should be a good little spot.
It'll be nice and hidden.
Yeah.
All right, so while Brad was making that, I went ahead and took out the ECU, and we went ahead and ran our push-to-connect lines. That was in the engine bay. We ran our line through. This one's going to be our boost reading. This one's going to go to the Y that Brad was talking about. This guy is going to go to the CO2 bottle. That little bracket that Brad's talking about is going to go right here, so it's going to look really good. It'll be nice and hidden. And besides that, we're just trying to basically make this thing look as clean as we can. All right, we got everything mounted up here behind the kick panel. It's looking really good. As you can see here, we got our inlet for the CO2 bottle. That's behind the seat. We have our boost reading that's right before the intake but in the throttle body, and right here we have our CO2 pressure reference that's going to be off the gate. Everything's all set up. All we got left to do now is test it. Everything hooked up. Let's test it out and see if we've plumbed everything correctly.
Okay, so we press the menu button, and that's what our launch PSI is going to be. So we're going to leave it 5 PSI. That may be going up, may go down. Who knows? You may not be able to get it on foot brake. So we'll do that one. Press this one. We're going to do just messing around 2 stages. So the timer's at 0, and the rate is 10, and you can go between, what was it?
1 and 50, right?
1 to 50 is your rate. So that's how quickly it brings in the boost. So you can change that. If the track will take it, then you can obviously bump that number up and it'll bring it in quicker. And then your first stage target is 10 PSI. And then at 3.5 seconds into the run, it's going to go to 15. So now we'll say that's good. So now we'll go ahead and do a test run of it. So let's press this button here. Okay, so now that's just saying A. So go ahead and put your foot on the brake pedal.
Okay, brake pedal test.
Should go to 5. Okay, so now it's at 5. So now let off the pedal and it should go immediately to 10. And then it should go to 15.
Boom, test complete.
Okay, then after you're done, you can just press that and take all the pressure off.
Awesome.
Cool?
It's going to be rad.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
It's going to be rad to play around with.
Yeah. Okay, so we're trying to figure out how to get this bottle mounted in your car, and since we don't have a roll cage to mount it to, which is typically what we do, that creates a challenge as it is. Also, the fact that this is like a liquor store CO2 bottle that you can get at any liquor store. This is what we use. It lasts forever. You don't have you just exchange program, so you don't have to worry about them like, oh, this bottle won't certify, any of that kind of stuff. So I had to try and come up with an idea. So I kind of do some sketches here. This is kind of my own little sketch work. It's not that great, but this is kind of the idea I wanted to do, is create something like this. Also, the other issue with it is these bottles are not all the same every time you exchange them. So as you can see, this is another bottle. Still close, but not the same. So you can't make it exactly the same every time, which kind of makes it a little bit difficult, but we'll work around it and see what we can do. So this is kind of my idea. So I kind of drew this up on Fusion 360, and basically this part will get cut out on the plasma table, and each one of these little notches here, we're going to use some of this 1/2-inch tubing in there, and then in this hole here, it'll slide through here, and that'll hold the main part, and then we can make a fixture off of the back of the seat brackets or something to hold it for that. So
this is going to be rad. We're going to make some sparks, aren't we?
Oh, I know you love sparks. It'll be some sparks. Okay, so here's what we ended up coming up with. We went ahead and designed these little plates and cut them out with the plasma table, stuck these rods in there, and then the bottle just like sets in here. Then we were trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we mount this thing? So we thought we were going to try and do it to the seat bolts, but the seat, where they're so far up underneath the seat, it would take up a lot of room. So we decided to come up with this trick little bracket, and it has a bolt on it. So this bolts where the back seat bolts down, and so your seat will come back up to it, and it should line up and kind of give it a little bit of stabilization.
Dude, that thing looks absolutely. That thing looks like some sort of transformer part.
So we'll powder coat it, but first let's like kind of stick it in the car and do like a dry fit and see how it fits. Just go in like this, and then your CO2 line will plug right in, just like that. And then the seat can come back a little bit. Help support it a little bit.
Dude, that looks awesome.
And then we'll figure out some sort of a strap to strap it to it to really hold it on there.
Yeah, that's killer. So this is like, there really is no option to put a CO2 bottle in a non-caged F body, and Brad just made one out of imagination and some spare parts he had laying around. Incredible, that thing turned out awesome.
Yeah, I think it'll work good. So we'll get it powder coated, and then we'll put it back in there, and so you can get some shots of it fully done.
Awesome. So the cool thing about how we designed it is look how much room is underneath it. So it's not like the bottle is, like hitting on the ground or anything. So I absolutely love the clearance that's underneath.
Yeah, and it's one bolt, so you can literally take it out if you don't want it in there, and then you just hide your line, and now it's all out of the car. So
back to street car status.
Yeah.
Head and powder coated this. It looks so good. What doesn't look good is our crappy tan carpet, but man, check this out. All right, there she is, all mounted up. Of course, we'll put some sort of strap system on there to hold the bottle, but man, this turned out really, really good. We got the interior all wrapped up. As you know, we were gonna put the air fuel ratio gauge right here. We put the boost leash there. That turned out absolutely incredible. But then we had the decision, where are we gonna put the air fuel ratio gauge? A lot of guys put them up here, but we decided we kind of wanted to keep that OEM look, so we decided to go over here to the left side of the driver's seat, and I think that's gonna turn out really, really good. It's nice and hidden. A lot of guys put them up here, and I just don't like that look. It kind of takes away, in my opinion, of the interior of the car. This, to me, looks like it could possibly belong, but that's not all we did. Underneath the ashtray, we decided to put the line lock and the two-step, since we wanted to maintain the factory appearance of the car.
Today was an absolutely incredible video. We finally got the boost leash installed, and the reason why I love coming to Vasko Speed is because the guy is super creative and he's a crazy fabricator.
So we went ahead and designed and fabricated a bracket to hold the CO2 bottle, because we don't use the typical one that you can just buy like from Motion Raceworks or something like that. So I had to design it, build it, and so we powder coated it, and it fits in the back seat. Pretty cool. Then we also went ahead and finished up some things. So we had a line lock on the car, but we never had finished wiring it, so we did that. We also installed the air fuel ratio gauge and put it up in the one of the vents. And then we had to do some research on some wiring and made the two-step work that was also installed previously, but we never finished that one last wire. So this was one of those visits where it was like wrap up everything that we finally had. So now it's like should be ready for the tune and should be ready for about track time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be. It was super awesome to hear. You actually hear the two-step, because obviously we've had a two-step before. If you're watching the channel, you know what it is, but to hear one in person, especially after like how much work we put in the car, you know, how much film work we've done to the car, just to actually hear that like this is the final step, you know, and it's just like tune, then we can go track it. It was just like an awesome feeling.
2023 is going to be a great year.
So Brad, thanks again, man, for having us out and, you know, doing the install, and just that way I can do some filming. And I mean, because just trying to do things yourself in film, especially on the automotive side, it's so challenging. So to have a guy like Brad, you know, with Vasko Speed in my backyard, where I can just call him and be like, hey Brad, I got this project in mind, and he's like, that's awesome, bring it over, let's do it. It's incredible. So I get like always, if you're in the Midwest and you're trying to make your 4th gen great again, I highly recommend Brad with Vasko Speed.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem, man. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you on the dyno.